The Unauthorized Biography of Reinhold Messner by Raphael Schinners. Reinhold was having the dreams again. For the longest time they had always been the same. In his dreams he was in the Himalayas. Turn the page. The frost bit into his cheeks, and each step seemed to take a leaden eternity. Ridges swam in and out of focus as he scanned for signs of the Yeti. Suddenly there would be a scream, hoarse and echoey, from the valley below. He would look down. He would see his wife stumble in the snow. He would see it close in, see short, sharp gusts of breath rise from both figures. He would take one step, and he would tumble forward into oblivion. When he told his wife, she kissed him on the nose and snuggled into his chest. "I'm fine, silly. It was just a dream." But that was how he normally dreamt it. This morning it had been different. What he did not tell his wife was that this time he had been the Yeti. The telegram had been placed in the toast rack by the housefrau. It sat there, glaring at both of them over the breakfast table. His wife, Francisca, chewed on a croissant. They were both going through a French phase, and looked at Reinhold. "Why don't you open it, mein Schatz?" she said. Turn the page. "It's not good news," he said, brushing baguette crumbs from his dark beard. "You won't know until you open it." He sighed, walked around the table, and French kissed his wife. "I meant it about that vase." He plucked the telegram from the rack and opened it with a pâté knife. "Reinhold, stop. Articles on Yeti getting stale, stop. Readership dropping, stop. Suggest new scenery, stop. Am transferring you to Australia, stop. Flight leaves tomorrow, stop. Good luck, stop. Wiener Zeitung, stop." It was 20 minutes before the operator put him through to the office in Vienna. "It's done, Reinhold," the voice answered. "Pack your bags. I want 10 inches by next Friday." The phone clicked and went dead. "Scheisse," Reinhold said, softly. 64 hours later, Reinhold and Francisca stood on the shoreline of the Crouton. Wet sand sucked at his black climbing boots, gurgling as they started to sink. He wrenched one boot. Turned the page out and swatted at a march fly. Sweat dribbled from his beard, and he squinted over kilometers of flat nothingness into the sinking sun. "Isn't it lovely here?" his wife said. Reinhold didn't reply. The squeals jerked his head up from the paper. His hand tightened around the pen. There was a short silence, then raucous laughter, muffled by the fibro. Reinhold turned back to his article. "Australia is a land of striking contrasts," he wrote, then crossed out. "Literature tells of a fabulous beast called a bunyip," he wrote, then crossed out. Their house was 2 doors down from the Meningi pub. He was still getting paid, though he hadn't sent a single word in the 2 weeks he had been here. He couldn't believe his wife. She was up there at the pub again with her new friends. Reinhold hadn't had a single lengthy conversation since he had arrived. How did she do it, and why? The men were brutes, shearers and shooters, and Turn the page. They eyed him with distrust on the street. He wanted his quiet time, with his books and with his wife. He hated this place, the heat that soaked his bedclothes with sweat every night. There were heavy footsteps at the door. The latch was fumbled painfully for 20 seconds. Then his wife stepped in. "Reinhold, mein Schatz," she said. Her face flushed. "Won't you come and have a drink?" "I've got work to do," he said. The face of a man peered around the door. He was short, tanned, and breathing heavily. "This is Darren," Franziska said. "Come on, mate," Darren said. "Come up with us. It's a bloody riot." "No, thank you," Reinhold said stiffly. "Suit yourself." The pair disappeared, slamming the door shut. He heard laughter again. Franziska kissed him awake. He lay still in the bed, his arm around her chest. "Let's go to the mountains," she said. Turn the page. "Are we going home?" he asked. "Kind of," she said. Reinhold looked at the 12-meter tall sand dune. He put his climbing rope slowly on the ground. His wife looked at him anxiously. He looked at her, expressionless. In 40 steps he was at the crest. Smaller dunes crowded in behind, all the way to the edge of the lagoon. He looked down at his wife. She wasn't a speck down there. She was the same as always. Taking off his boots, he threw them high into the inchoate blue air. There was a smile, briefly, beneath his beard as he ran back down barefoot. The boots landed with a thump, a meter from him. "Let's go back," he said. His wife was out again with her friends. He looked at his half-finished article and decided to take a walk. There was no one on the main street. He walked out past the houses to where the road turned rough and ungraded. Further Turn the page. And further, past paddocks and broken fence posts and homesteads with warmth spilling from their lit windows. He took a small path to his right, overgrown with saltbush and oleander, and followed it until he felt sand shift beneath his boots. Sitting on the edge of the crouton, he watched terns and sandpipers circle the night and settle in the foamy shallows, calling softly to each other. Reinhold looked up at the stars, scattered like broken glass, and he could no longer hear himself breathing. He didn't recognize a single constellation. It was 3 hours before he returned to the house. He put his hand on the door handle and was about to turn it when he heard a noise. "Roar!" Reinhold froze. There was a giggle, unmistakably his wife's, from inside. "Oh, you're such a beast," she said. There was a tingling in Reinhold's head, and he felt nausea sweep through him from his feet to his fingers. He closed his eyes. "Here," Darren said. He grunted. "Help me out." Turn the page. "Here." The door opened of its own accord. Reinhold opened his eyes. In the middle of the room stood the Yeti. Its eyes blazed at him, and the claws hung from its soft white fur, glinting in the firelight. He waited for it to move, to strike. Darren put the bull horns on the Yeti's head. "Sheepskin and chicken wire, mate," he said. "No cause for alarm." "And," Reinhold said, his voice hoarse. "Thresher tines," Darren said, waving at the claws. "And," Reinhold said, looking at the eyes. "Highway reflectors," Darren said. There was no sound. The fire popped. "We made it for you," his wife said. Reinhold turned and walked out of the house. Darren walked past them and up the road. Franziska turned to face Reinhold. "Do you like it?" she asked. "Why?" he asked. "I just wanted to give you a piece of home," she said. It was some time before he could reply. Turn the page. "This isn't home," he said. "I know." And it won't be soon. She waited for him to continue. I haven't sent one article, he said. I know, she said, but they're still paying me. Reinhold, she said, mine Schatz. He looked at her. She was looking at the ground. They don't want an article, she said. I organized the transfer. His voice came from far away, small and meek. Why? I thought we could use a change. Try something new, she said. Here? Here. How dare you, he said, his anger bubbling up from deep inside him. Franziska looked like she had been slapped. How dare you, he said. I hate this place. It's brown and it's flat and it's hot. How dare you think it would be a good idea? To make me miserable? To go out almost every night and leave me here? You don't care. You don't even turn the page. Know what I need. She looked at him now, her face red. 30 seconds passed, and when she spoke, her voice was even and controlled. I go out because I have friends. I go out because I want you to come with me, she said. Not once have you given this place, these people, a chance. I fall asleep with you every night, and I know, holding you, that you'd like it here. If you need me, then why do you need mountains? Or snow? There's every kind of beauty here, just a different kind. And besides, she said, what does it matter if we're looking at it together? Reinhold looked down, embarrassed. I don't know, he said. Come on, Franziska said. Let me show you. Okay, he said. They walked into the pub. All heads turned towards Reinhold. Everyone, Franziska said, this man is my lover, my best friend, and the most amazing person I have ever met. Everyone, his wife said, this is Reinhold. For Christ's sakes, someone yelled. Get him a... Turn the page. Drink. I'll have a schnapps, please, Reinhold said loudly. There was stunned silence. Darren grinned and kicked the jukebox. It sputtered into life. As the first few bars of the waltz played, Reinhold's wife took his hand and led him to the middle of the room. He held her. He looked at her face, at the curve of her cheeks, at her hazel eyes, her smooth forehead, her lips. I think, he said, I think I can see the beauty. He kissed her for an eternity. Why don't we have an Australian phase, she said. The end.